Hey there, goblins. Welcome to Goblin Salvage Rights. My name is Robert.
And I am Eric.
And today we're talking about a new book that just hit the shelves, NPC Core.
NPC Core.
The last core
See
book.
this? This is core.
It's the core.
It's hardcore.
Hardcore.
Get it?
Come on, Dad. So NPC Core.
That's my one for the episode.
It's the last core book? Question mark?
No, it can't be. It's not even like a real core book, is it?
Oh.
I mean,
I've
I've heard,
and
I've
you're
heard,
not even calling it a core book?
I mean, it is for me.
Eric, how dare.
This is motherfucking essential for me.
Eric's excited.
But like the fact that they called it NPC Core, that makes me think this is like player core, GM core, monster core worthy, right?
Yeah.
I have a hard time buying that, but I still think this is essential.
Awesome. Awesome. First up, we got to thank our newest patron.
New patron.
Captain Velvet Thunder.
Rockstar name. Thank you, Cap.
Fucking love it. Welcome to the tribe. And I think Eric wants to start leaving you goblins with a cryptic little message about our what we're working on Patreon every month. So this month we're working on
moon hags and space dragons. If you're interested, find somebody in the Patreon side of this tribe and ask them what that means.
Or give us $5. Links will be down.
Give him $5. I never see any of it.
That's true. It's all my bank account. Links down in the doobly-doo. Please check it out if you care to support the channel.
Yeah. Lots of stuff behind the scenes. We're growing, and it might not be super visible based on these, but come on down to the Discord, and we talk a lot about this shit. Yeah.
Discord's also in the doobly-doo. It's a fucking party down there. Over 100 goblins.
Yep.
Fucking whooping. Absolutely.
Is that how the kids are dancing these days?
I don't go to things anymore. I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, next up is what we played.
Yeah.
We played
what did we play?
Stuff,
we did Kingmaker.
Actually.
That was delightful to get back to the table.
We're carving through Harkoga's lair. The players are finally fighting multiple opponents that are actually giving them run for their money.
Yeah,
learning
trolls, and more trolls.
How to heal.
Yeah.
Investigate poop.
Yep, investigate poop. That is a very important
absolutely
tool in our disposal.
And they're disposing of some trolls and hobgoblins. Yep. So that was very fun. I'm in my element as a DM.
Yeah, Robert's running a dungeon crawl, which is where his heart is, and that happens to be where his talent is. Yes. So that was really fun to see, like 2 hours of Rob-centric gaming.
Bing,
so
bang,
you are
boom.
running the game finally that you want to see in the world.
I'm
very happy to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Edgewatch was interesting because I only had like 2 players there. Lots of stuff going on.
You love your tiny player games, though.
I like 3.
Oh, okay.
2's a little rough for me.
Really?
Because it's a little. I feel like I'm extra under the microscope. I have to talk twice as much to cover the emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting. What are we doing? We're trying to prevent a mass casualty event at the Aurorium, which is the martial arts, stadium of the world. The arena, right? And I have this board game called Hoplomachus, which is it's a Roman board game. And it has a rollout mat. That's all like neoprene and sexy. Oh, yeah. And it's a big old hex map in the style of a gladiatorial arena from the Roman days. And I just stole that from my board game, threw it on the table, and then threw all my minis on there for the great big battle.
That's sick.
So it was pretty cool. I basically had to treat 2 of the missing players as NPCs essentially, and just described what they were doing on their parts of the turn. And because there were only 2 players, I had to take the entire combat and rejigger the math so that they wouldn't get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing is instead of having each of the 4 large size creatures have their own individual stat blocks, I just did a hit point pool. So no matter who the players went after, it would subtract from that pool.
Did you communicate that before the combat?
I did not.
Oh.
And there was a bit of confusion.
A bold move by Eric. Let's see how it pans out.
Well, the 2 players that were there, they kind of know to roll with my shenanigans. And I, the first couple of times they were like, what's this? I kind of calmly just looked them in the eye and said, roll with me on this. When we're done, I'll explain everything if you want.
Okay.
And then I had him in that moment because we've been doing this for 2 to 3 years now.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah. So, my goblin shenanigans paid off. That was delightful. Yeah, and anyhow, that's what we did in Edgewatch. We've got like the big bad boss fight of book 3 coming up next session, and Ben will be back for that. So that'll be super exciting.
Sick nasty.
Yeah. Sick nasty. Gob nasty.
Sick nasty fresh.
I think Gob nasty needs to be.
We need to make a shirt that says Gob nasty.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like a goblin like snot rocketing
Right.
out of one nose while he's running away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I played in Bloodlords. We are clearing out an old church/bank of Aradin. And we got to the bottom of everything, literally, and then we found a vault that's locked.
Okay.
That brings us to a lower level, and we're still looking for the key.
Okay.
So we cleared out some dudes, killed everything on both floors, and now we're in that like
dungeon crawly.
Now we're in that like gotta go back over the whole dungeon. What did we miss? What's the thing we're missing to like unlock this section? Kind of thing. So that's a lot of fun.
Well, your GM for that game is also my GM for Rise of the Rune Lords in the play-by post. And I spent my entire hour-long lunch period today crafting my play-by post.
Yeah.
It's really fucking long, and I apologize, Kyle. Hopefully it'll pay off because we're about to get into my character's massive daddy issues in Sandpoint.
That's what you sign up for in a play-by-post.
Reading
other people's giant paragraphs.
Yeah. Yeah. So I built my character around his family drama, and daddy is right at the center of it all. So hopefully we're diving headfirst into that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sick.
So that's what we played. That's a lot of gaming since last episode.
Is, honestly.
I'm happy with that. It feels like the winter is finally behind us and we can get back to things that matter. Like
get back to rolling, baby. Yep. Absolutely. So let's talk about this big old bookie book.
Yeah, it's bigger than I expected it to be, and it's not a monster, but it's a good size for what it is.
Let's see here.
I mean, it's a collection of stat blocks, right?
We're at like 240 pages.
And
$70 Roonies.
Sure, but that's the state of the world right now. You know, paper products and distribution being what it is.
Eggs are like $6 a carton.
Get me started on that.
Oh my gosh, those poor chickens. Anyway, so I want to introduce. We're going to introduce like a little segment when we do these new book
books.
videos where it's like our first reactions. Would we buy this?
Yeah, it looks like you already did
automatically, and I basically, you know, because I'm on subscription, I get the books whether I like it or not. And I think you can skip them, but it doesn't matter. I need to get my hand on the review copy or the closest thing I can to it right now because Paizo doesn't love us.
They will.
One day.
They will.
One day I'll be good enough for Paizo.
Our Gob Nasty will be good enough.
And they will love me and
Pacific
send me
Northwest
books. Yeah, goblins. If you know anyone at Paizo, please connect me.
Pimp us.
I will.
Would you buy this book?
I would not.
You would not.
For $70 Roonies, I could buy other books.
You could buy other books
that would be worth it as a player. Like this is quintessentially a really cool picture book for a player. For a player, this is like.
That sounds so dismissive.
Look at all this character art that I could pretend my character is.
Look at the pictures.
A lot of really good character art.
There is, yeah. It only gets better every book that comes out.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to wax poetic about the art later. But like for a player or someone who's mainlining player or someone who is like me and doesn't really focus too hard on being a DM, it's not a huge part of their enjoyment of the hobby, I'd press skip.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric?
I am on the other side here. I would absolutely buy this as a GM and as a player.
Okay.
And I'm going to go into how I would use this book as a player. I think players can get a ton of mileage out of this in a way that will help lighten the GM's burden at the table and make the game just more dynamic and cinematic for the other players as well. So I'm going to save the rest of my spiel for that part of the episode. But yeah, hands down, I would get this. I probably wouldn't get War of the Immortals, for example. I thought that was a perfectly fine book. It was enjoyable. I did like it. But when you said like, is this $70 worthy? This one, yes. War of the Immortals, not so much for me.
Huh.
So that's kind of a little bit of compare and contrast there. Divine Mysteries. I already have Gods and Magic, and I don't know. The Pathfinder wiki is enough for me on that one. I might even pass on that one.
Right.
The Rival Academy is coming up. You better bet your ass I'll be buying that one.
Oh, yeah. We already have the PDF, by the way.
Yeah.
Episode is coming up.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It's good.
It's so good.
It's not like I'm going to buy every book, even though I want to, right?
Right.
But if I were to skip one, this wouldn't be it. I mean, I can use this just as much as a player as a GM. So,
would you say this is a must-have book as a GM?
As a GM, yes. I think as a player, if you are playing in the type of game I'm about to describe this video, then you need to have this book.
Gotcha.
It'll make your character background creation so much easier.
Cool.
So yeah, I say yes, you say no.
Yeah.
Let's see what the rest of the 60 minutes holds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
By the end of this video, one of us will be right and the other will be dead.
By the end of this video, one of us will have Venmo'd the other for the book.
I don't know, man. I like my the Wayne Reynolds pencil art on the books that are coming out these days.
The pencil art is actually fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, I was really disappointed, about the leather wrapped books.
Yeah.
Because they've got a fucking art on the front.
Yeah.
Like, what?
They started to later on.
Did they really?
Yeah, like
Oh, they're hot stamped still though, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. But there's still like that contrast, right? So you got the troll popping out on the monster core.
Yeah. But the Wayne Reynolds pencil art is just freaking
it's choice.
Chef's kiss. It's chef's kiss.
It's delightful.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm a yes, you're a no. Where do we go from here?
I think I want to talk about a big mechanic that it got introduced in the book, and then I'm going to let Eric talk for the next 60 minutes.
Okay, because I can.
Yeah.
What do you got?
You're in love with this book.
What do you got?
So
here?
I just want to talk about troops.
Please do.
We've seen troops as a NPC and a monster before, but not in this volume. So this book probably has a dozen different troops in them of varying levels.
Right.
So I just want to kind of explain briefly how troops work.
Yes.
Troops are a swarm, quote unquote, of non-tiny creatures. Right. And
they have their own little tag that says troop.
Exactly. And what I love about the description of them, like in the primer for what troops is, it's they described one spider to a level 1 creature is not a threat, but a swarm of them is. One orc to a level 10 fighter is not a threat, but a swarm of them is. I love that idea of threat multiplied. And the rules do a really good job of bringing that to life on the battle grid.
One bunny to a level 10 shepherd.
Exactly. So like, the TLDR is it's a swarm of creatures. So anything that targets a specific creature just doesn't work on them. They're generally speaking made of medium-sized or small-sized creatures that take up a 5-foot square. The best way to represent them, imagine your head 4 squares all together, right? So you have a big square made of 4 smaller squares. Each of those smaller squares of 10 by 10 by 10 is made up of one like mini on the table, right? You've got one mini on the table. So you've got 4 minis on a table that form a block. And there are 4 blocks that form the gargantuan sized troop, basically. So at 2/3 health, you lose a block of 4. At 1/3 health, you lose another block of 4, and then they die. That's how troops work.
Yeah.
They
really satisfying to see them peel away at the table too.
Yeah, and each block can kind of, because it's a collection of 4 dudes, basically, that block can move kind of independently and mold around your party and do interesting combat things that you don't really expect a swarm to do. Because generally a swarm is like a 10 by 10, one block.
Yeah, this is almost like a gelatinous swarm.
Exactly. And I love that idea of it kind of like conforming to space.
Yeah.
It makes it feel a lot more real, makes it feel a lot more intuitive.
Yeah, and it also makes whatever actual set piece you're playing in be more interesting. Because if you're in like a library, well, your troops can wrap around tables.
Yeah.
And that's cool stuff.
Actually, well, now that I think about it, you probably could have run your entire combat as if they were fighting a swarm.
Okay. Yeah.
In your arena example, when you're running.
I didn't think about that, but yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is swarms don't often have a single attack. They do have single attacks, but they also have abilities that allows them to attack in areas of and exude pressure in large areas.
Sure. Do you have an example?
People. Yeah, I've got the well, yes, actually, I've got the orc skull crushers in front of me.
What's a thing they can do that a singular orc can't do?
Crush skulls, apparently. So it's one action to 3 actions. Frequency once per round. Effect: Skull Crusher Smash their mauls and clubs against each enemy within a 5-foot emanation with the DC 22 basic reflex save. The damage depends on the number of actions. So you can see here, instead of the swarm or the group of the troop, making one attack against one guy, it's a collection of dudes making attacks against anyone close enough for them to hit.
That results in a saving throw.
And not an AC.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there is an AC though, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And then what I like about it is the beautiful action economy system comes alive with a lot of these swarms. A lot of these swarms have like multi-action effects, so they can spend one action to do an amount of damage, more actions to do more damage, so on and so forth. So, and then they have other abilities too: Sacred Salvo, Chant of Dominance, like, typical monster abilities that cost 1 or 2 actions. So they move in little blocks of 4. They are 4 blocks of 4 combined together when they first start. And that's about it. They have like a special swarm defense. The rules for it are at the back of the book. And you can find them on, the Archives of Nethys. But they're a really interesting take on the swarm that I love the rules for. I think they're really well written.
Yeah. I remember seeing troops for the first time in that 3rd monster book. I keep wanting to call it Bestiary 3, and that's not what it's called. What were the monster books called before in Pre-Master? Are they over here? Bestiary 3. That's exactly what it was.
Oh, okay. This is oh, fuck. Yep, right there.
I don't know why I thought it was different.
Bestiary 3.
So yeah, I remember it was in there, and I was kind of excited about the idea of getting basically what you said, medium-sized creatures that behave as swarms to do interesting things, because I get tired of seeing the same fucking stat blocks over and over and over, just kind of like reskin for different kinds of critters. So the swarms is sort of like expanding upon what it means to be in a combat using abstracted mechanics.
Yep.
So that was delightful. We need more troop stuff, I think.
I think troops are cool. I want to make some more troops.
Yeah, if anybody knows where else troops exist in the different products, I know we can check Archives of Nethys, but I'd much prefer to talk to people about it.
Absolutely. Leave in the doobly-doo. Leave in the comments.
I know this book and that book. I need to know where else they exist.
Your favorite troops. Let me hear them.
My favorite troops? Hell Knights.
No, I meant like the people.
Okay. Your answer is Hell Knights.
Goblins. Hell Knights. Ooh, yeah.
Which are also in this book.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Love it. I just realized I don't have Player Core 1.
That sounds silly. Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't have the hardback of Player Core 1. So if you have the hardback of Player Core 1, Eric, I will trade you 1 NPC core.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm conflicted. But I'm also a GM, so.
There you go.
Okay, anything else about troops?
No, I just wanted to explain the rules. I think they're a really cool design element. And that's about it.
Okay, cool. As a player, not much I can do with that. That's purely a GM piece of a tidbit to use. Or not. What else we got?
Art. There is 159. I counted them myself.
You counted them?
I literally counted
159 pieces of art?
109. Okay, there are 159 pieces of player character art.
That's cool.
So if you wanted to buy this as an art book, you're buying 159 individual characters that you could look like.
Okay.
And to me, it's not worth $70, but that would totally be worth $20.
Sure.
As a PDF, or $30 or whatever it is up to these days.
Yeah.
Because I think art's super valuable.
Concept art. Yeah.
Concept art allows you to build a character around them. There's 2 or 3 or 4 more pieces of art, so there's probably closer to like 160, 165.
It also helps you fill out your game if you're a GM too.
Exactly.
And you don't have to just make things up out of whole.
Exactly. And the cool thing about the PDFs is you can actually copy and download the individual pictures of the art. They're like segmented separately. So
that's true. I never think of it that way because I don't play digital games. You know, I'm kind of meat and potatoes, old school that way.
But you have all the PDFs because of me.
That's true. That's true. Choose your friends wisely, folks.
And I want to say that, like, I immediately noticed that this collection of character art is incredibly diverse.
It's super, not racially diverse, like culturally diverse.
And ethnically diverse. And genderly diverse.
Yeah.
And
they're like clearly doubling down.
Yeah, this is
There's so much non-binary art in here.
This is a book made in the Pacific Northwest. Absolutely.
Happily so.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's cool because, like, you know, like my partner is getting into TTRPGs whole hog now, and I literally found a piece of art on page 104. I wrote it in my notes, P104-wife. So like my partner is an awesome piece of art that actually kind of looks like her. That is like exactly what I'd expect her to play as
it's even her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Read what the
curse monger.
Exactly, dude. Like we've been reading, we've been watching.
I love that so much.
We've been watching What We Do in the Shadows, and I'm just realizing slowly that she's literally Nadja.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that could be your, someday when you write your memoirs, I married a curse monster.
I married a curse monger. So yeah, I just think it's really cool. Like a bunch of different people can read this book and find really cool art that resonates with them personally, or inspire them to play a character from a completely different background. And TTRPGs, in my opinion, are a great way to flirt with role-playing people who you aren't. And that's healthy. It creates
empathy.
And that's something that
we
really
need more of.
We need more of
this day and age.
Exactly. So like, I think TTRPGs are a route for empathy, and especially when you play someone who's completely different than you, because then you're forced to imagine, who are they? What are they like? And why are they like that?
That's why I always play exclusively wealthy characters. I just try to see how the other side lives.
Exactly. Because God knows, with 12 patrons, we're never getting there. I'm sorry. That's mean. That's mean.
That's gonna clip.
I love you guys.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna gush for another 45 minutes. You got anything else?
I got 6 things on my. Do you want me to just go through my 6 bullet points, and then you can just talk for the next 60 minutes?
Do one more.
Okay. So this is the one I think you'll like the most, because I went through the entire book and I found them and I wrote them down on page
accepted.
Numbers. So RP and story jumping off points. Each section of this book is broken up by these different strata.
Section summaries? Sections?
Yeah. By like, you keep moving the page, Eric.
Here, take the book.
Courtiers, criminals, devotees, the downtrodden, the engineers, the explorers, the healers, the laborers. You get the idea.
Yeah. And I will read every single one of these when it's my turn to talk.
Each of those sections has like 1 or 2 pages dedicated to like a cool part of what makes them interesting. And as a player, as a person who mainly is a player, but also as a DM especially, this is my favorite part of the book, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I can actually build an interesting character in fluff, in my backstory, using them. And they're not like general nebulous ideas. They're like concrete, here's a list, roll a d20, and this is your thing now. So I'm just going to shotgun all these page numbers for you. Page 10, 16, 27, 39, 41, 50, 59, 65, 71, 75, 81, 87, 95, 107, 122, 131, 137, 145, 151, and 165. Not even including the ancestry section. So like that is 10 to 12 different 2-page spreads, 1-page spreads of little nuggets that you can inject directly into your character's backstory, and just make them like interesting. Last episode, when we talked about being a better player, we talked about having like an edict, basically an anathema, and a fucking weird quirk. Yeah. Right. These are these sections that I just listed off will help you fill out those weird quirks. If you pick,
100%.
Like if we go to that section in the beginning, the describing the different kinds of people, and you just like roll a d20 and pick 2 of them. My rogue is rolls d20, a courtier and an artisan. Okay. They're an artisan courtier. All right. What do those 2 things mean? I'm going to go to their little special sections. I'm going to pull one little nugget out of there, one little nugget out of the other one. And all of a sudden I have like a really interesting and dynamic character
that the other players around the table will look at and go, I need to up my game.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of that particular
piece.
It's
super lazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
GMs can be as fancy as they want to be, but until the other players start stepping up,
right,
the game is only going to reach so high.
So yeah, the RP story stuff, the jumping off points, that's probably my favorite part of this whole book.
Yeah. And on that note too, one of the things I was thinking about as I was going through here, each one of these sections, and I am going to go ahead and literally read them off. So, God, this is the bad day to lose my glasses.
You lost your glasses again?
Well, I didn't bring them.
Oh.
So artisans, courtiers, criminals, devotees, downtrodden, engineers, explorers, healers, laborers, martial artists, mavericks, mercenaries, military, mystic, official, performer, primalist, scholar, seafarer, and villain. Please don't fall asleep yet because there is a point coming up. So let's just take the artisan section, okay? Mm-hmm. My character is an artisan. My daddy's an artisan. My mama's an artisan. Now I'm a baby artisan. What does that even fucking mean? What is an artisan? Well, there's a level -1 apprentice. There's a merchant. There's a smith, a guildsmaster. These are different kinds of artisans that you're going to find as you run around and role play, right? So that I just listed 4 right there.
Yeah, sure.
Take a D4, roll it. You get a 3. Okay, smith. My daddy's a smith. Do it again. Okay, I get a 2. Mama's a merchant. Okay, what does that mean? What kind of household are you in where, one stream of your family going back, they're smiths, and the other one is merchants? That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Go a little bit further down the way, and we get ourselves some devotees. Mama's a deific champion of Iamade. All right, what about daddy? Oh, he's a deific vessel of Urgathoa. What sort of hate fuck resulted in my existence? So they're just taking the 4, the 6, the 8, the 10, and the 12
NPCs themselves.
Yeah, you can create family trees. You can create first loves for your character. This is what our elementary school grew up to be. Now that we're older, and you can populate your game, and you can do fun flashbacky stuff. So yeah, this book is super useful for creating your own character. I am an artisan of one of 4 kinds, according to this book. But you can also build out family trees, relationship maps. You can talk about the place where you were raised, because how many games have we played in where we all come from the same town? Maybe 1, if we're that lucky. Most of the time we come from different parts of the world, and there's really not much to dig into there in a typical D&D game because we're too busy running around dungeons and stabbing shit.
Yeah.
But let's say you do play that game where everybody comes from the same neighborhood. We're all from the Bronx. Well, so are they. This entire book full of people. The GM doesn't have to do any heavy lifting. It's all here. And it's not just the individual parts that are important. It's the when you combine them, you start getting combinations. And I don't know how many combinations of things you can get out of this, but it's a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's super low-hanging fruit. You just roll a fucking die, you pick it up, and you look at it, and you go, okay, my BBEG needs a long-lost love that they're busy killing everybody because they can't find him. And, that's kind of their plan. Well, who is their long-lost love? I don't know. Let's randomly roll or just find out for ourselves.
Totally.
So,
can we talk about the artisans section?
Sure.
At the very beginning of the book?
Yeah.
There's a section after those 4 artisans he described that has like specific guilds that you would encounter in any major city.
Yeah.
And then like, what would happen if they gave you a boon? What would happen if they fucked you over? What would happen if there's a story moment starting from it? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So every group type, artisan in this case, has a small, there's like 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 or 12 NPCs. And then after that, there's a small article that's divvied up into different sections. For the artisans, they are common artisan guilds. I think that's it for them because it's so big. It's a 2-page spread.
Fucking 2 pages. We've got like 8 to 16 different like artisan guilds here. Each one has their own
cartographers, herbalists, leather workers, machinists, mechanics, masons, stonecutters, scroll keepers, plumbers and sewer workers, shipwrights and sail makers, wood carvers and coopers, and smiths and forge workers. This might feel like homework to some, but this is how communities are made. This is how cities are made.
Exactly.
Like when the GM is going, you guys are in a sewer. Well, who interacts with sewers? The people who catch the rats, the people who built the damn things, the people who have to clean the things. So there are guilds for these things. And just to take one example, what's a fun one?
Cooperages.
Cooperages. What the fuck is
I work in rum. Cooper is someone who makes barrels.
Oh, good. So wood carvers and coopers. This is broken up into 4 sections. Wood carvers and corpses? Coopers are trained in carving and sharpening wood for daily use. They make wooden toys for children, larger household items such as barrels, buckets. Wow, my eyes are bad.
Eric's having a hard time.
Sorry.
You want to hand it to the dyslexic kid?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Just like read the bold part.
So what I was trying to get at here is each one of these sections has a helper hinder.
Yeah.
Which is great. Quests or encounters. And then items directly related to like that specific thing. So wood carvers and coopers are trained in carving and shaping wood into many items for daily use. They might make wooden toys for children or larger household items such as barrels, buckets, casks, and tubs. So helper hinder. If adventurers need shingles for their guild hall roof, a custom front door, or their wagon repaired, a woodworker is an expert they need. A carpenter would be able to help them outfit their homes as well. So that's in the helper hinder section. The quests and encounters section. Adventurers might find a woodcarver hard at work in their workshop, diligently chipping away at an intricate carving or heating wood to make it pliable and easier to form into a round shape. If they're not in their shop, they might be in the woods cutting down trees. It's hard work, but they would welcome assistance of anyone helping or hauling lumber. So these are like little jumping off points.
Yeah. And
really
why should
paint a
we give a
story.
shit?
Yeah.
Because a stat block is nothing without contextual information to make it interesting. And one of the things I love about Pathfinder bounties that you can find on Paizo and download for $3 to $5, whatever they're costing these days, is they'll typically take a monster stat block and then they'll create a very small, like one scene story around them with a map and a battle and sort of what came before, what comes after. So it's a small slice of life for that monster. These little articles in the back of each of these sections for these different professions, they serve that function. They serve that purpose. They give the GM the tools they need to say, yeah, you got a stat block for a fucking toilet maker. Here's what that actually means. Here's how you can use it. It's not enough to say, I know how to roll initiative with this particular NPC.
Right.
You need more than that. And this book gives that in spades. And for each of the professions, it's a different kind of thing. So for the guilds, it just happens to talk about the different kinds of guilds for the artisans. When we get to like the cutthroats and rogues, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
When we get to the soldiers and the warriors,
love that section
it's
too.
a little bit different. Yeah.
And you can use those backgrounds for yourself, for your own player character at home.
Yep.
So again, like I didn't want to make it sound like this is completely useless for players, but there is no player options in this book.
In terms of crunch?
Yeah.
Is that true? I think that is true.
There's one or two like items,
like way in the back. Yeah.
Like that are just peppered in there, but it's not something.
Sure.
It's not $70 worth of player options.
It's not, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. Couple of examples. So we talked about the artisan back matter. I'm just going to call it the article on the back. For the courtiers, you have a little sidebar, knowing your social events. What's the difference between like a bat mitzvah and a gala, gala, whatever.
Gala.
Yeah. So there's like these are the different kinds of functions that you need to know if you're going to call yourself a courtier. GMs can use that. Players can use that information. Noble titles and symbols and stylish messages. That's also in the article for courtiers. For the criminal section, you've got like 10 to 12 stat blocks for NPCs, ranging from lowly pickpocket and beggar all the way up to kingpin. And behind that, you have an article that talks about, fantasy crimes in a sidebar. Crimes are everywhere, but what do fantasy crimes look like? You got to think about that a little bit, right? Emotion magic in the town square. You can't do that. You know, don't charm me with your magic. That's illegal. And there are penalties for that sort of thing. At least there should be. So the idea of having a fantasy crime sidebar that's usable as a player, as a GM, criminal tools, criminal magic. There's a bounty hunting chart. Did you see that?
The
Did you like that?
Chart looks dope.
Yeah, you can just fucking lift that, stick it in your campaign.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. The devotees, you know, the priestly folks. The back matter has deities, temple hierarchy, minor prophecies, blasphemies. It kind of covers that sort of thing. The downtrodden have their own section. Word on the street, friends in low places, street nicknames. cavalcade of misfortunes. You know, these are sort of like things you can use to color up the downtrodden NPCs or player characters if you're playing one. There's a machete. Did you like the machete entry?
I did like the machete entry.
They did too. They liked it so much they printed it twice in 2 different sidebars.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I have it in red here. They used it in the Explorer sidebar, and I think they used it in the like one of the other Marshall sidebars as well.
Funny. That's an editing oopsie.
Come on, man. Nothing else got repeated. Just the machete.
That's funny.
I thought that was quirky.
They really
I think that was, yeah. So yeah, you got laborers. All right. Laborers sounds boring, right? But you've got like a bar fight sidebar. How to run a bar fight.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not, every game starts in a bar, doesn't it?
It can.
Yeah. It's super low hanging fruit for GMs to use and players to kind of get involved in. Laborers we meet along the way. There's a back matter article on that. There's a small little section on unions, which, you know,
Paizo's
those of us who have been following
totally.
Paizo for the last few years know that. But still, the idea of what does unionization look like in a fantasy world? This is like, well, let me tell you in a couple of paragraphs.
Totally.
So every single one of these, mercenary, military, mystic, they all have their own distinct articles behind the 10 or 12 stat blocks that say, okay, we gave you the numbers. Now let's bring them to life. Let's get you that third dimension. So these aren't just cardboard cutouts running across your table. I super appreciated that. And this would be a 3-hour video if we went through every single one of them.
Absolutely.
That being said, I kind of color-coded blue the things I liked and red the things that I didn't. And very few red. But in the officials section of NPCs, these are like your magistrates, your judges, and you know your tax collectors. Every single one of the back matter articles were blue, 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 blue. And maybe it's because I'm running Edgewatch and that's a super metropolitan thing. But like there's a raise the alarm sidebar. Like when your players are behaving like fuckers, what does it take for the alarms to come on?
So like,
how many rounds does it take? What's the threshold before people start getting involved?
Grand Theft Auto stars, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
So that there's that in here. And you know, deploying the watch sidebar. What does it take to not only get the attention of the authorities, but for the fucking watch to be deployed? Just like, hey, we're here because somebody went to the precinct to file a complaint. And that somebody went to my watch commander and my watch commander came to me and I'm coming to you to say, hey, what does it take for that whole chain of events to happen?
Right.
There's a sidebar that kind of goes on that. The back matter article. Oh, there's also unusual misdemeanors too. Super interesting because we're always doing crazy murder hobo shit and not, you know, what
that's an
misdemeanors
understatement, Eric.
Right.
Yeah.
So corrupt adjustments is one of the parts of the article. Judicial punishments around the Inner Sea region, specific to Pathfinder. You can lift it, put it in your own game. What does that say? Regulatory quirks in a community, adding flavor to failure. Adventurer-based crimes, legal exemptions, and restraints. Every single thing in that back matter article for that specific grouping of people, the officials, love it. That was probably worth $20 for me out of the 70 I would pay for this book.
Okay.
It's useful for every game I'm ever going to run. There's never a game I'm going to run where that specific article is not going to be useful. It's like, how do you run a community that makes sense? You know, law and order, cause and effect.
Verisimilitude.
Thing B happens, you know,
exactly.
Just like it keeps everybody kind of in the same fantasy headspace.
Absolutely.
So all of these things have articles that kind of make you feel like you're watching a mind movie. You know, it's not just numbers anymore. It's not just, you know, the Final Fantasy Tactics grid-based, how can I get my my combat synergies going? That's clearly a huge part of this game. But this book allows us tools, low-hanging fruit, easy to reach tools to focus on the math and still have the fun color stuff, what you call the fluff stuff. It still allows us to bring that as GMs and if we're creative as players. I still think this is a player book just as much as it's a GM book. Yeah. So that's pretty much that. What else do we have in this book that's worth mentioning? You said you had like 6 things you wanted to talk about.
The ancestry section for NPCs.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say on it, but
Really?
go ahead and get us started.
Okay,
I mean, it was nice. I liked it. I appreciated it.
Much like the different jobs that these NPCs are categorized in.
Right. And they're all human-centric too.
Yeah, it specifically said everything is human-centric for the job section because humans are the most common ancestry in the Inner Sea region.
Yeah, it's easy to start with that as a base and to sort of use the ancestries to like be templates to drop over these entries. So
we like to talk about our 3-way Venn diagram, right? Our hot 3-way Venn diagrams.
With the ancestries.
The ancestry just really kicks that up to 11 because not only do you have like catfolk, and we've got specific catfolk NPCs that are appropriate to that ancestry, like the Leaping Thief, catfolk name collector, the Lucky Courser. We also have catfolk names expected, catfolk superstitions. So catfolk are naturally superstitious.
In Galarian.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, so what I can do as a player is find a cool piece of catfolk art, which there is an excellent one here.
Such a crazy piece of art.
Yeah, I would love that art. And then I can just randomly roll on one of these superstition tables. You know what I mean? It's not even a table; it's just a list of stuff. But buying good luck. Spirits often repay service with good luck. Choose a spirit, even catfolk favored god like Desna or Sarenrae, and follow an edict of theirs. They will reward you with a fortune in a future endeavor.
It's funny you use the word edict there because I was thinking you can just lift it, reword it, and there's your edict or anathema.
The Dwarven section is even bigger. We've got Dwarven curses and exclamations. Unlikely Dwarven expertise. So like cliff diving is on here. Collector and restorer of antique furniture. So like
there's like dwarf tables you can roll on or just pick from.
Dwarven signatures. Dwarves show artistic pride through signature details like a religious symbol of their crafter's patron god, a small face on an inconspicuous part of an item.
Yeah.
So like
this is their article version of what we were just talking about for the individual ancestries.
And to me, this is, ancestry plays such a big part in our backstory a lot of times. I don't think it should play a huge part in your in your backstory. Let me rephrase that. I think that it often plays it plays an outsized role.
Sure.
In a lot of
it makes us cartoons.
In a lot of new players' backstories, right? Specifically, new players will be like, I want to be a tiefling, which means I'm bad.
Right.
And
I'm going to be a rat folk and I'm going to bite everything and hide it in my cheeks.
And I love cheese. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like,
we all.
You can, I mean, she's pretty good. So you can take these things and you can have your edict and anathema and your quirk, that weird fun thing.
Yeah, this is pretty quirk positive, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Banquet dishes of elven banquets. A clover soup, a maple and winter bark digestif.
Sure.
So maybe this is one of those things where your elf character that you randomly rolled, they're an elf, so obviously they love banquets. What's their favorite banquet food? While you're having downtime activities, remember how last episode we talked about the barbarian who loves tea parties or whatever? Maybe you're an elf who loves maple and winter bark digestifs and 20-color sponge cake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they have them on them and they're actively making them themselves.
Yeah. And another thing you can do again is however many ancestries are there. Let's say there's 10, just to pick a number. Roll a D10. All of a sudden, my halfling character who was raised by dwarves has something from the dwarven section.
Exactly.
But I'm a halfling. So
this next section is great for randomly rolling super impactful stuff for your elf character. The in memoriam. Elves care a lot about
nice.
Elves care a lot about their fallen elven comrades
because their longevity.
Exactly. So here we have like tell stories of the deceased to others. Train in the deceased's combat style. Maybe your whole fighter's combat style is based on his long lost uncle who taught him how to fight. And that's why he fights the way he does.
Yeah.
That right there is the seed of an
That's
entire character's
amazing.
backstory.
I love that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that is so good.
Exactly. So like this section to me, the goblin section is fucking incredible, dude.
It took us how long to get to the goblin section?
I know. The goblin art in here, especially the goblin with the gold crown.
Yeah.
The big boss goblin.
Yeah.
That's going to be my character art for our character in the future. And also the goblin scavenger, which is with this big ass fuck you gun.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yep.
Love it.
It's like a mammoth horn with a hole in it.
Fucking love it, dude.
That halfling with the frying pan. It's so cliche, but so fun.
I've wanted to make a cook like a traveling cook who wields a frying pan ever since they introduced frying pan as a weapon in the game.
And now with the Kingmaker cooking rules, you can actually do more with that concept.
Exactly. So like we have goblin songs that you can learn.
Yeah, which goes back to the beginning of first edition too.
Exactly.
That was a nice little throwback that they kept.
So these are the kinds of things that you can literally just blend up together, throw into your character. Or, you know, if you want to go one step further and have something that's not even in a book, if you want to be a real hipster, take these. If you want to be lazy, throw them into an AI.
Sure.
Copy, paste them into an AI. Say, hey, this is an example of a goblin song. Write me 5 more goblin songs about chopping up horses. Sorry, Gabby.
And feeding them to the dogs.
And now you can print that out, bring it to your game, and you have like in the middle of combat, you start singing dogs and horsies, cut them up, chop them up, put them in a hot pot, cook them in a nice tender, gulp them down. Like you could just do that in the middle of your game, and people
no one will
be like,
stop you.
What the fuck, Robert? I thought you were the haiku guy, and you're like, "Ha, gotcha, motherfucker!"
I was a goblin the whole time.
I contain multitudes.
Here's my crowd.
Exactly. So, like, you know, these are
and
the
if
kinds
you
of
want to
things.
get like weird and
You
mad
just go weird with
scientisty about it, you can have like your character is a gnome by ancestry, and maybe you were raised by elves, so you grab something from the elven back matter, and you're a noble. So you come from nobility, but you dip into the criminal section and look in that back matter, and you absorb some stuff from there. Well, why is my noble character with money involved in criminal stuff? It kind of gives you the ability to yes and your way through your character. This book is a yes and tool for players. That's another reason why I think this is a player-centric book as well.
We're talking about the 3 Venn diagrams, right? The triple Venn diagram. Take 2 of the jobs, I want to call them, you know, the section, the groupings.
Professional groupings.
Take 2 professional groupings, 1 ancestral grouping. There's your triple Venn diagram.
And then see what pops out. And like you said, throw it into
backstory.
ChatGPT and say, give me 100 words on a narrative description of a character that does this, this, and this with fucking Elden Ring theming.
Yeah.
Or,
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Outlander theming.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Hardcore porn theming. Whatever you're going to do. ChatGPT might not like that too much. I think they're.
I don't know. I've never really talked to it about.
I think they're softcore at best.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just exciting. I mean, the performer section, the back matter is let's see a show. Well, what kind of show? Well, let's take a look at the different kind of shows and how much the tickets cost and where you got to go to catch them and who is in them because it's in the back matter. How often do we play games where we're like, you know, I'm gonna listen to the bard at the bar, and that's about the extent of our imagination for most of us when we think of what happens when a bard is in the room, besides them trying to get laid every game. Well, this says...
Toss a coin to your witcher.
So these back matter articles help to expand our understanding of things like priest, cut purse, goblin, you know, the animal companions and familiars that are in the back of the book. It just expands. Like there's more we can do with these things, especially when we combine them. So yay.
So on that, like writing that trail, we come to my number 5 in my book of notes here. The sample organizations on page 223.
Oh, that was good.
This is like the crystallization, you know, the distillation of the Asian of all of this. You know what I mean? So we've got a bunch of different sample organizations from Golarion, Eldori Sword Lords, Arc Lords of Nex, Aspis Consortium, Bellflower Network, Blood Lords of Geb, let's fucking go, Cypher Mages, Cypher, Eagle Knights, Esoteric Order of the Palatine Eye, Firebrands, Free Captains. It keeps going. There's like 10 more.
And these are all specific to Golarion.
Yes.
But each one of these represents a type of organization you would find in any gaming world.
Exactly.
There's the Necromancer group. There's the Freedom Fighter group, so on and so forth.
The weird cult that's all over the world. The Illuminati group. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's an angel involved in that backstory. It's really cool.
So what's cool about this is it gives characteristics. Blue uniform, do-gooders, passionate, patriotic. Goals: defend Oradin, fight tyranny and oppression.
I smell
inspire,
edicts and
oppress.
anathemas.
Suitable NPCs:
Mm-hmm.
artillerist, heavy cavalry, knight, line infantry, mage knight, phalanx formation, standard bearer. Suitable NPCs: steel falcons. Suitable NPCs: twilight falcons.
And all of these guys are in this book, right?
Exactly.
And they
These are
give you
all
the page
NPCs.
number so you can just
Exactly.
track it.
So firebrands. Let's say one of these factions inspired your character,
Mhm.
the Red Mantis Assassins or the Cypher Mages. You know, you can use that as your starting point.
Mhm.
Find the suitable NPC sections. Look at what section they're in,
Mhm.
and then do your triple Venn diagram from there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because almost every one of these, except for like the Eagle Knights, who are just all from the, you know, fighter section, the
Sure.
soldier section, they're all from a disparate grouping of different sections.
Mhm.
And that allows you to create a deep character out of nowhere.
Yeah. And let's go to the other side of that coin, the GM side of that
Right,
coin.
right.
Why don't we turn to the Bloodlords of Next, since I know that, or
Bing
Geb,
bong.
since I know that's kind of where your heart is right now.
Do the Arc Lords of Next if you really want.
No, let's do the
Okay.
Bloodlords because it's got an AP. A lot of people are more familiar with it.
Yes.
And there's a current game going on in the GSR Discord
Yeah.
that's dedicated to this. Just read a couple of sentences.
Characteristics: diplomatic, educated, necromancers, ruthless,
Mhm.
scheming, spellcasting expertise, undead, wealthy. Goals: expand personal influence, govern Geb, influence foreign nations, maintain Geb's favor, rule forever. Suitable NPCs: advisor, despot, eldritch emeritus, grand inquisitor, mastermind, necromancer, prime minister.
So one of the things that Robert skipped over is a giant block of text that says,
Oh yeah, yeah.
this is what the Bloodlords of Geb are about. This is who they are. This is what they represent. This is kind of what they're doing in the world. And these are the things that you're going to see whenever one of these representatives shows up. So bracket that. Those specific NPC types
Mhm.
that you just read off, they're of varying levels.
Yeah,
And they're all in this book. So
Totally.
for you GMs out there, hey, I want to run a game about the Mantis Assassins. Grab the NPCs,
Well, actually,
ascend them in levels.
first grab the AP about the Red Mantis Assassins.
Skipping that entirely. Let's
Yeah,
pretend
yeah,
APs don't
yeah,
exist.
yeah,
Just like take a look at all the NPCs and then like just level them up from level 1 to 20 or whatever the fuck they are, level 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's the progression of your Mantis storyline. Take those edicts and anathemas you were just reading out loud, their areas of focus, their interests, Venn diagram those into groupings of 2 or 3 per NPC, mix and match them so that there's different emphases. Like for the Bloodlords one of them was, what was it? Governing through tyranny or something like that?
Yeah.
Governing that. Another one was ruthlessness. And another one was necromancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe one of those NPCs is necromancy and governing. Maybe the other NPC is ruthless and necromancy. That's how you build your adventures. Because if you're doing ruthless and necromancy, you better be finding monsters in the monster core that represent those ideas. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of random shit we're going to kill on the way to the bad guy.
I
So
think-
that's kind of how you get through a story arc right there. And that is like 5 inches worth of content that can build a campaign.
Right.
I can't express how valuable that is. That is another $15 worth of this book right there.
It's
just for
adding
me.
up, ladies and gentlemen. It's
Yeah.
adding up, my goblins.
By itself. This particular chapter, sample organizations, worth its weight in gold and more. Continue.
The last thing I have on my list, outside of these beautiful sample organizations,
Mhm.
is
Be still my beating heart.
the relationships and advancement
Yes.
subsystem.
Yes.
Little did you goblins
we have
know,
a new subsystem.
this is actually an OG subsystem episode.
Remember those days?
I do.
I think 40 other people
Fondly.
do too.
Fondly. Those 40 goblins are the true
This isn't a sophisticated subsystem. It's super bare bones, but it gets the job done, and it's really quick.
I prefer the bare bone subsystems.
It's almost powered by the apocalypse levels of quick.
Absolutely. Keep talking.
Yeah, relationships and advancement. That's two separate. They're not really both subsystems. The relationships is kind of a subsystem. The advancement is simply saying all the NPCs in this book, this is how you can advance them alongside player characters.
Right.
For instance, in Edgewatch, the very first BBEG was an orc assassin lady. She was supposed to be arrested at the end of the first book. I didn't want that to happen because I had other plans for her. But I can't have your level 14 asses running around going up against my level 3 BBEG and have you take me seriously. So the advancement section in this book says, how do I get Rauzo up to the appropriate levels? Because right now, the two people playing in my Edgewatch game this past week, they're level 11 right now. Yeah. Rauzo's a bit of a badass at this point.
Gotcha.
And this right here tells you numerically how you can have that happen without breaking the game.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And you can also have like relationship maps.
Yes.
To
super simplified.
Exactly. Hyper simplified, if you ask me, which is great. Like, this is the kind of shit I need as a new DM.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And as a guy who loves to have many, many, many dozens of NPCs running around, how do we create stakes within these relationships? Well, this here has a super simple way of doing it where they use, what do they call it? They call it insults versus boons or something.
Yeah. Maintaining relationships in decay. There's tokens and insults.
Tokens, pluses, and insults, negatives.
Yeah.
And relationship decay is another way of saying if you don't tend to the relationship, it just slowly disappears.
Yeah. There's 7 levels of relationships in the connections little bar here. And we've got bonded, committed, associated, acquainted, avoided, despised, and vindictive. So from good to
basically
bad.
a V.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes from top to bottom. And then they have a description of what an NPC does and thinks when they're in these sections. And then
and how hard it is to go from one to another. Going from the center up, it doesn't take a lot. You can just like, drop a Thanksgiving turkey on someone's doorstep and all of a sudden they're one level higher.
Yeah.
But if you fucking like, I don't know, malign their mother and they hate you, it's going to take an act of God to get you to the next level up.
Yeah. And in classic Paizo fashion, we have minor, moderate, and major.
Yeah.
So there is a minor token, a moderate token, and a major token.
Oh, I love that. That's like that 4 degrees of success kind of territory.
So in order to get from like antiquated to associated.
Antiquated.
Sorry.
Acquainted.
Thank you.
There you go.
Dyslexia's fucking a bitch sometimes. You know what I mean? So to get from one to the other, you need any token, whether it be a minor, moderate, or major. But then associated to committed, a committed friend requires a moderate or major token, and then committed is a major token. And then to recede, to go down, many of these is just any insult. Any negative thing will bring you down, but it takes greater and greater things to bring you up along those ranks.
And everything that Robert's talking about right now is sort of based on something that currently exists, which is the reputation subsystem out of the Game Mastery Guide, which is now the GM Core.
Yeah.
I don't know if they brought it forward. I think
it's in the core book, the OG core book too. Yeah.
So these are all old ideas that have been refined and simplified. And the reason why I like this specifically, I don't want all 5 of my players to have this mapping with all 75 of my NPCs. I want player A to choose the relationship that they want to navigate with one of the NPCs of their choice that they've come across.
Right.
Player C has to pick a different one. Can't pick the same one. Everybody should have somebody that they can interact with on a way that kind of does this. And GMs can use that to craft scenes and scenarios going forward. Who can we call upon to help us in our time of distress? We got this situation where we need to get the word out. Well, I've got the bullhorn spell. No, there are 4 million people who live in this city. That's not going to work. We need something bigger. Oh, well, don't you know somebody at the local newspaper? I do. And it turns out I have an antiquated relationship with them. So I think there are fun ways where you can sort of monetize the relationships between specific characters and specific NPCs and map them in ways that are numerically growing and shrinking throughout a campaign.
And for players
it might matter later.
For players like me, give me the fucking chart. Be like, Robert.
Yeah. You left brain motherfuckers.
Jacques gets the woo-woo with the large paragraphs. You get, go read, pages 226 and 227. Carl, the baker, is currently antiquated with you.
I'm sorry, Carl.
If you'd like to give him any token, please do. So I can go look up the subsystem and be like, I am a robot. Yeah. I would like to interact with Carl. And you'd be like, all right, Carl says, what's up?
For the record,
Bam.
Carl's a shitty human being and he makes terrible bread.
But you know what? He's also the son of a fucking mayor. So
that's why we keep Carl around.
Carl's
Welcome
my boy.
back to the table, Carl.
Carl's my boy. You know what I mean? And that mayor turns out to be a drug lord too. So, and we're investigating him. So like Carl's dad, but Carl's kind of like, he's just a simple
It's
baker.
all coming together.
It's all coming together. So like, for players like me, the left brain motherfuckers, as you so eloquently put it, I could know that, Carl starts out as avoided or maybe even despised because he's the son of a drug lord and I'm a cop. But through moderate or major tokens of appreciation and then eventually any tokens, I can grow his relationship with me and I can track that on my end. I could be like, all right,
totally.
My boy Carl, he's only avoiding me.
Yeah.
He's not vindictive towards me anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as like a left brain player, that's what
you know what
I
else
need.
You can do?
Yeah.
You like, I just thought of this in real time. Like right now, I was today
real
years
time.
old
It's
when I
happening
came
live,
up with this.
boys.
So as a player, I can grab 3 NPCs from this book, different sections, right? Each one of them has a different standing in the relationship for me. One of the NPC A has a negative perception of me, and they start further down the chart. NPC B, antiquated, right in the middle. NPC C just really likes me for some reason. And those 3 NPCs in my Rune Lords game, I have daddy issues, right? So my character specifically has mentors that he's trying to find. One of them is the local priest of Desna, who sort of is a community-minded guy. It's easier to build than it is to destroy. The other one is the master alchemist, because my character is an alchemist.
Right.
And he's a little shady, but, I think he's just a kooky old codger, right? But then there's my dad, who is just like the worst human being in the history of human beings. Having a different space on that relationship, tug of war for each of them, that can last an entire campaign.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's mine. No other player at the table has that relationship map. That's for me. And if I see you having one of those, because I'm me, I'm interested all of a sudden in your character.
Right.
I mean, everybody's characters are typically kind of boring because they're just collections of abilities that express themselves during moments of combat. And that's fine. That's fun. That's like 3/4 of the reason why we come to the table. But the characters you remember for years and years and years later are the ones like Ront, who is a brutish orc that has amazing abilities in combat at the table, but so does every other brutish orc out there. But Ront builds a bar that his friends can be safe in and that sort of thing. Ront has a relationship map with specific people where he what did you call it? He gives them tokens to increase the intensity.
And sometimes he insults them.
Right. And if you have a really strong bond with somebody, capital B bond in this chart, it takes more than a minor insult for you to go down.
Right.
And that is that's the shit I eat up as a GM. So I think that's fun. I think you can have the combat and the stabby in the face moments, but there can also be stakes to, what do I say to this guy the next time I see him? Because it's going to affect me numerically. And my GM might be taking the results of this relationship and using that to modify the severity of the encounter at the end of this chapter. So what happens if the villain in the story is the relationship that you're building around? If you do enough major tokens and you get it to where they like you, they're positive towards you, they're still going to murder you in the face at the end of the chapter. But maybe that severe encounter,
they're going to feel bad about it.
Well, maybe that severe encounter gets dropped to moderate as a result. What if you can modify the severity of encounters based on the relationships? Wouldn't that sound like real fucking life?
Yeah, because they're pulling their punches because they kind of like you.
Yeah, so this is as close as I've gotten to a physics simulation in this stupid game. And I just love it. I adore it. So this is a super simple 2 to 4 pages that's going to revolutionize a lot of games that I play in going forward.
Absolutely.
Even as a player. Cool. I dig it. I'm really proud of you for picking that section to call out.
Oh, Dad's proud of me, Goblins.
Aw, you're growing up. What else you got? Anything else?
That's my 6, dude. What do you want to talk about?
6.
These goblins are itching for more talkie time.
Well, what do we got left? I know we're trying to keep this under an hour this time, hour and a half.
Yeah, we got like 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay. Did you have any thoughts on the themed spell lists?
Not really. Spell lists are like, they're just not, they don't inspire me.
Okay, you're thinking as a player, aren't you? Because you like to have access to 100% of what's in the toolbox, and you'll grab the ones that are most efficacious for the build you're trying to do.
Yeah, I don't like, I'm playing the water druid, so I only pick water spells.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good they are, only water spells. It's like,
I had this idea, and maybe we can do this. It's something along the lines of like a loot box approach with themed spells, but a themed spell list where at specific levels, the spells you have access to actually work with each other in interesting ways. So it's not like if you're playing a necromancer, every single spell has to be in the necromancy section, but like maybe, I don't know, 60% of them, 70, 80% of them, whatever number it is. Totally. And the rest of them, they leverage the necromancy spells.
Stinking cloud, baby.
They elevate them. And that could be interesting. But the idea of having thematic spell lists is a super quick shorthand for, I've got an NPC that deals in fire.
Right.
And they're a spellcaster. Oh no, we're in combat. What's a spell list? Fuck. Fireball. That's a spell list. Yeah. Burning hands. Haste.
Yeah. Fire is fast.
And
haste.
Flame.
Yeah.
And, mirror image. There are different ways you can play with the theme of fire using spells that currently exist and aren't in Rage of Elements.
Totally.
Use Rage of Elements, but you don't have to.
Yes.
But just that's a way to bring the NPCs to life in a thematic way that doesn't feel like cheating. So there's a small section on themed spell lists I was really happy with. It's only like 2 pages too.
Yeah.
So that's that.
One of the things I wanted to point out about this book is that like it really is a bestiary on its own of humanoids. So like as you're playing,
That's a good point.
Depending on the kind of game you're running.
That's a really good point.
This is probably way, like if you're running Absalom, this book is way more useful than the actual bestiary. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
that's brilliant. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean that's just like God, it comes to my mind.
Mimic Fight Club is never going to put this book in there. That's too bad.
Why not?
I don't even know if they're updating it anymore. If anybody knows if Mimic Fight Club is actually updating their stuff, I would like to know, because I remember looking for things in specific AP volumes and not seeing them represented there. So I think they might have stopped somewhere along the way.
That's too bad.
And Agents of Edgewatch was like the second AP to come out. So there's stuff in there.
The cool thing about Mimic Fight Club is that you can use it to make sure your encounter math still works by just putting any monster of the same level
10
in there.
monster, yeah.
And then from there, you can just like filter the tags on Archives of Nethes using the Archives of Nethes were finally catching up. So
I noticed that. Yeah.
Very stoked.
What about creature companions? Did you have any initial knee-jerk thoughts on that?
I didn't really think too much about it. It's one of those tack-ons of a tack-on kind of thing.
It's like 4 pages of creature companions. And
I was kind of disappointed none of them were like player-focused at all. You know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure the editor literally slapped the whole writing team and told them, no player options.
Yep.
This is a DM book. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I have not played all the classes. I haven't even read all the classes in Pathfinder.
Eric, how dare you?
Yeah, well, that's part of the reasons why I'm in this podcast, is to kind of use this as an excuse to do stuff like that.
That's fair.
In preparation for further things. But one thing I noticed, and you tell me if this is a thing that that previously existed or not, but there are some really cool options in here for taking a creature companion, a pet, or a familiar, attaching it to an NPC, and it gives them actions they can do above and beyond what's in the NPC stat block. And they're automatic. It's not like the player has to roll a saving throw. So for instance, God, what did I see? I saw instances where it was like, if you have your critter use the ability, it's a one action thing. The critter uses the ability, and that ability says when you do damage, there's an automatic 1d12 bleed damage from the critter. So if you're riding a wild boar into combat as a goblin and you manage to like do a swing by axe blow, you roll your die on your first attack and you hit, your critter automatically does damage. That supplements.
There's like
is that a new thing or is that an old thing?
No, that's how companions work in the game.
Okay, so it's not like there's like a saving throw involved or anything like that.
Yeah, like so the way companions work is they have every companion has like an assisting ability where it can just spend an action aiding you, automatically succeeds, and then a special thing happens when you hit them for the first time.
Right, for players.
For players.
Does that exist for GMs, for NPCs, for monsters?
No,
that's what I've never seen before.
They're just taking the idea and applying it to NPCs, which makes perfect sense.
Which is different math.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because player math and NPC math is very different math. So they created the same situation on the other side of the GM screen.
Right.
Will it work? I don't know. I have to assume that they tested this shit before they put it in the book.
Right, guys? You tested it, right, guys?
But yeah, so I thought that was really cool because there are fewer things more infuriating than having a guy's, I don't know, second in command or critter do something and it's just, the fucking champion is going to make their fortitude save or something. And it's totally. Why even bother?
Right.
No, this is automatic. It happens. If
and
the
like
villain
automatic
does it,
things,
then the critter does it.
Right. Like the automatic thing is, it's not automatic because it's triggered off of something else, but B, because that just changes the math. Sure, you know what I mean? But B, like that can, if done improperly, that's a huge feel bad for your players.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also know going in that the goblin charging you on a wild boar is probably going to have the wild boar do something.
Yeah. Fucking tusk you or something. You know what I mean? Like these guys, these are literally orcs riding giant boars.
Yeah. Right. So in the old world, the stat block would just be the orc swinging his axe.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'd have an extra movement or something as a result.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to spend another hour going over the seafarer, the scholar, the primalist, but we're not going to do that. Just know that every single grouping of a type of profession or person has an article behind it that shows you how to bring your game to life. And players can use it if they're smart. GMs should use it because this book is for them. I did not feel this way about the NPC Codex from first edition.
Really?
I didn't feel that way about the Monster Codex from first edition. I loved both books, but the kind of player agency I get out of this, I didn't get out of those books.
Huh.
This feels like I can bring this to Kingmaker and use it as a player. And that is a delightful surprise for me.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's a great place to end this podcast, honestly. I think that's the perfect note.
Yeah, it's either that or pictures of my feet. So
put those down, put those away. Those are for the fans, the people who are only our fans.
Okay. Should we announce that?
No, oh my God, please, no. Dude, if you're a goblin
soon,
that's made it this far to the video,
how that's spelled.
Leave a comment. Let us know if you want to see that.
Oh, please do.
Thanks for hanging out with us, goblins. As always,
keep it weird.
Keep it weird.